This is Martin Giles of the Guildford Dragon News, and I'm with Guildford's new MP, Zoe Franklin. Zoe, thank you very much for giving time for this interview to the Guildford Dragon.
No problem, Martin. It's really nice to be here.
Now, you won the Guildford seat at the general election 7 weeks ago now. Um, Becoming an MP is something very few people actually experience. Can you take us through your experience and the process of becoming an MP from that point on? Did it start the very next day? Where were there things that surprised, disappointed, or amused you? Tell us what happened.
It's been an amazing few weeks, as you say. It's only 7 weeks since I got elected. That was off the back of a really intense 6 weeks of the general election campaign, and then many, many months of me campaigning as a Liberal Democrat to try and win Guildford's parliamentary seat. And in fact, the day started the day before, in a sense, because polling day was the 4th of July, and I didn't go to sleep. I was there at the count overnight, and the declaration didn't happen until 6 a.m. I think I finally got into bed about 9:30. So it was an exceptionally long day, but was absolutely amazing. And then I had a couple of hours sleep, and I was straight into it. So I had a TV interview for BBC London on the 5th. I then also had my first meeting via Zoom with the new Liberal Democrat Parliamentary Party. So it was straight into it on that first day. And then the weekend was spent sort of trying to get a little bit of rest, but also, talking to people, thanking people. I mean, people gave so much of their time to help make this happen. It doesn't just happen because one person is there on a ballot paper. And preparing for what I knew was kind of, or trying to prepare for the week ahead when I went into Parliament for the first time. And then I went up to Westminster for the very first time on that Monday after the 4th of July and met all of my new colleagues. And I'd talked about in the past with Lib Dems across the whole region about this idea of being able to get on a train and meeting one of my colleagues on the train, taking a selfie, going to the next station and repeating that. And while it may not have necessarily been exactly the MPs that I was expecting, I had the joy of getting on the train with Jess Brown-Fuller, who is the new Lib Dem MP for Chichester, and then we met up with Will Forster, who is the new Lib Dem MP for Woking, on the train, and we headed up together to Westminster, crossed the bridge together, took some more photos. There's a theme here, there's a lot of photos. As you say, it is something not many people experience in their lives, and I feel a deep sense of really honoured that the people of Guildford voted for me, a real privilege to be in a place where the laws of our land have been created for hundreds of years. And of course, before that, it's also been, a palace for the kings of the country. So there's this real sense of being part of something much, much bigger than myself, and that has had many years before me, and I'm sure will have many, many years beyond my time in Parliament, whenever that ends.
Were there any things that struck you as amusing during that process?
There's a lot of traditions in Parliament. There's no surprise to anybody that in a place with as much history as Westminster does, there's a lot of, I would say, slightly strange things that happen. I mean, I find it amazing every time I sit in the chamber to realise I'm not just watching it on the telly. I'm actually there, and the Prime Minister is on one side and the opposition is on the other. There's been some amusing moments where Keir Starmer referred to Rishi Sunak as the Prime Minister. We all had a laugh, including Rishi Sunak. There's the moment where the Speaker gets elected and gets dragged out of his seat, despite the fact that it was an absolutely unanimous vote. And so Lindsay Hoyle is a fantastic Speaker and really cares about all of us as MPs, and particularly our safety. I've loved the description of one of my colleagues came up with of what being in Parliament is like. It's like this cross between the West Wing combined with Hogwarts. And in fact, as I look out on my window, I'm really fortunate. I have an office in the Palace of Westminster, and I look out across the roof of Parliament, and it really does have a real Hogwarts feel to it.
Yeah, and that point about being on TV when you're in the chamber, I mean, that's quite important, I guess, because you don't want to do anything unfortunate that would be picked up, do you?
No, I mean, that's something new that I'm sort of getting used to, is a lot of what we do it is put on camera. And that
Yeah,
is obviously, people rightly want to see what we're
yeah,
doing, and we
yeah,
share a lot on social media. But also when you're in the chamber, as you say, there's always a camera potentially pointed at you. So you're very aware that you want to make sure people know that you are paying attention to
yes.
the conversation that is happening. And yeah, actually, I've been
'Cause,
really interested in what's going on in the chamber.
I mean,
It's
I've
a lot.
noticed, sorry to interrupt, but I've noticed watching MPs that it can be a little bit off-putting when you see them concentrating on texting someone or something, and there's an important, well, an important issue perhaps to you as the viewer.
Mm.
But so it's difficult because you've also got to deal with urgent messages that are taking place at the time. So I guess people need to be understanding of that.
Oh, 100%. And you'll find that almost every single MP who is doing anything on their phone is either looking at the order paper on their electronic device, trying to find out what is the next question.
Mm.
Can I bob? There's lots of strange
Yeah,
terms
yeah.
I'm realizing. Can I bob
Standing
for
up
a
to try and
question?
get the speaker's attention.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
trying to stand up, and kind of thinking ahead, but also communicating with their staff, with the staff prodding them, going, actually, you've got a meeting in 10 minutes.
yeah,
Are you going to be able to make
yeah,
it?
yeah.
So I just really reassure people that we're not sort of texting frivolously. It's often communication with our teams, communication with our colleagues, and also checking where we are in the debate.
Yeah, there have been a few people caught out, I seem to recall there, but we won't go into that.
Let's not go there, Martin.
Okay. Now, the other thing that I wondered is how daunting is it? Because, you know, you're going into the Palace of Westminster with its centuries of tradition and with a huge responsibility. Did you feel that as you went into Parliament?
Yeah, it is a daunting place to be, because, as I said, you recognize that it has run the country for hundreds of years. It will be there for many, hopefully hundreds, after I am no longer an MP or any of us are MPs. And there is this sense of being part of something much bigger than yourself. And it's also remembering that actually it's not just the people who voted for me to be their MP. They are all of my residents across Guildford and our villages, and I am there to serve them. And I really want to get it right and be the voice for my constituency in Westminster. So yeah, I do feel daunted, but I also feel this deep sense of privilege that I am in this position to be able to serve.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity for you, obviously.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So what training do you get?
So lots. It's been brilliant actually talking to colleagues who have been here before. They've said that actually this time around there's been far more training than there has ever been. So we have covered so much, everything from kind of how to keep yourself safe and your staff safe in the constituency. Sadly, we live in a time where there are more threats to MPs and their staff. Understandably, after everything we've seen over the last couple of years, there's a training session which we all have to go to, and a very good training session at that, on behaviour and standards in Parliament. And a lot of conversation about how do you set up your office well to serve your residents? How do you get started on things like casework, building your team? Because the thing, I don't think many people realise this, but when you walk into Parliament as a new MP, you have no team. It is just you. So one of the first things that you need to do is start to build your team so that you can serve your constituents as effectively as you possibly can. So loads and loads of training, and there's more that you can access as an MP remotely, but also in person. And then there's loads of training as well that my staff, as they come on board, can access and be trained through.
Okay. Now you've had to obviously you had to take Angela Richardson was your predecessor, and there will be casework you've had to take over, which is part of the handover, I guess. Can you explain how that occurs?
Yeah, so outgoing MPs have a period of time where they're able to continue with their staff and close down their offices. And part of that is the handover of any outstanding casework, particularly significant cases. And Angela Richardson and her team have actually been really helpful. We've had a good passing over of existing cases from her team to me, and as I build my team helping me. And that's through a combination of Angela's office contacting those residents saying, there's a new MP, would you like us to pass over the case?
Yeah.
You have the option of either directly contacting Zoe or I can pass it over. And so we've had a combination of the two, and I'm now picking up those cases.
Yeah, because it's quite right that you get their permission, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now the official opening of Parliament, a very sort of ceremonial occasion, occurred on July the 17th. Did you attend?
I did. I was there in the chamber. It's the most amazing thing to be part of. It's fascinating with all that tradition and pageantry, and yeah, amazing to be part of that.
Okay, and almost immediately Parliament went into recess. How has that affected you? Is it like a summer holiday?
No. I'm trying to get a balance. Obviously I've been campaigning non-stop for many months, in particular that's 6 weeks in the run up to the election. So I'm trying to get a bit of time with my family. I have 2 school-aged children, one of whom is just going through exam results, so wanted to be there with the family, but also wanting to get things really started well, so that when we get back into Westminster in September, I can really hit the ground running. So a key part of that has been recruiting some staff, caseworker as an example, and someone to assist me in Parliament. Those are 2 key roles. And also getting out and about. It's, for me, I've always been very clear that I really want to be a present and visible MP. And so I've been knocking on doors, I've been doing visits all over the constituency, sitting down with different organisations, including people like Ockham Parish Council. I went to the Even Arno Theatre to see the works that are happening there yesterday, all sorts of visits across the constituency to get to know Guildford even better, and understand the issues that impact residents.
Okay, now I dare say that Ed Davey would have been maybe a little surprised at how many MPs the Lib Dems got. And in fact, you told me, as we were just talking before the interview started, it's the most they've had for over 100 years. So he's in a very happy position of having to allocate tasks. How has the party organised itself under it?
So we are obviously delighted that we have so many Liberal Democrat MPs, even more than we had hoped for. And that presents us with a real opportunity to be a really effective third-party opposition. Ed has been brilliant. I mean, I think I can speak for all of my colleagues and myself when I say we've all felt incredibly supported by both Ed Davey, his team, the staff team, and all of the returning MPs. And in terms of how things are kind of being organised, actually, Ed was very clear in our first meeting together as MPs. He's like, I want you to focus on getting yourselves set up so that you can serve your residents really effectively. So get out in your constituencies over the summer, build your staff team, and actually we've kept the same spokespeople as we had before, and that frees all of us newbies up to do the really essential stuff of getting ourselves bedded in.
Okay, I see. Right, now you're a supporter of proportional representation, as I think most Liberal Democrats are, if not all of them. How comfortable are you that the Labour government has a huge majority of over 200, although it only secured 34% of the vote? And other parties, Reform UK had over 4 million votes, more than the Lib Dems actually, and the Greens got almost 2 million votes. But they're so poorly represented in terms of seats, with just a few seats each. What do you think about all that?
Yes, I mean, as you said, I'm a supporter of PR, and I continue to be a supporter of PR because I think this is such a good illustration of how actually our system is not fair. I am delighted that we have 72 MPs, and we've obviously had a massive change in terms of who runs the country. But if you look at the breakdown of votes, it shows that the first past the post system isn't fair. And so I continue to want to see a fair voting system where people don't have to lend votes if they're, people may still wish to end up voting for a particular person. And that's my hope in Guildford, is that going forward, people would like what I do and vote for me. But I want people to be able to vote for the party that they would naturally want to vote for. And so a fair voting system is absolutely essential. It's something that we as a party will continue to fight for. It is something I know that Labour activists want, and it'll be interesting to see what the Labour Parliamentary Party do, and we will be pushing them to rethink and go for a proportional representation, a fair voting system, because yeah, it's not right when you have this imbalance because of the voting system.
Isn't that the problem, though, that the two major parties, they sometimes they don't like the first past the post when they're out of office, but as soon as they do well under it, all of a sudden it doesn't become a priority anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right there, Martin. But I think it's also then the job of the third party and other parties. And actually, interestingly, the Conservatives have been talking about the idea that they like PR all of a sudden. I can't imagine why, but it's part of our role to get across to the Labour government that actually for having a fair voting system is really important. The long-term benefits, and actually, we shouldn't just focus on, let's say, the Labour Party going, oh, we won, actually, we don't need it. No, we do need it long term. A fair voting system is crucial both to ensure that people's voices are heard properly and actually to restore public trust, I think, in politics generally.
I mean, actually, as it's turned out, you have got a proportional representation, I think, the Lib Dems, haven't you? You got, as far as I can see here, you've got 12% of the vote and about 12%, well, roughly that percentage of the seats. So, but that's because of your careful campaigning plans, I would say, concentrating in areas where you felt you could succeed. Anyway, can you tell us about the offices you're setting up? You'll need a constituency office and a parliamentary office. What's happening about that?
Yeah, so in terms of your parliamentary office, we all get allocated offices in and around the Westminster estate. As I mentioned, I'm very lucky to have an office in the palace with a lovely view out over the roof of Parliament. So I have a couple of staff based here going forward. I currently only have one, and then I will have an office in the constituency. At present, we are just thinking about what the right location for that is. And again, my hope is that as I gradually build the staff team, I will also be able to get the office in Guildford sorted so that people can know where to write to me. We will then think about actually how do we start doing in-person advice surgery so that I can sit down with people who want to chat through issues with me and all of those things. And I am pondering the idea of actually, rather than just having one advice surgery location, actually trying to move around a bit across the constituency, as I'm aware that, you know, we have quite a large geographical area, and I don't think it's fair to sort of ask people to come in from some of our further out villages into the centre of Guildford to come and see me. I want to go to people.
Okay. And lastly, how much time do you think you'll be spending in Westminster as opposed to Guildford? And how are you going to organise your work-life balance? Because you are a mother, your children are older now, but nonetheless, you know, you do still have family responsibilities. So how are you going to set about that?
So in terms of my family life, I'm ever so fortunate to have an amazing husband called Chris, who it's very much an equal partnership, and we share the transport, the being at home for the kids, etc. So we're thinking through how to make that work. And as you say, my children are older now and they're brilliant, and it's been a family project for quite some time. So they're also happy to think about, you know, what chores can they take on. Let's all plan together how the week works. In terms of the time I spend in Westminster speaking to returning MPs, it's very much Monday to Thursday in the way that the votes happen. I know that the Labour government has quite a heavy legislative agenda that they want to be moving through as fast as possible over the autumn season. So that's kind of the September to December period. I'm also told that it's likely, because of the amount of legislation that Labour want to get through, actually it's possible we'll be sitting Monday to Friday. So whereas normally you would have Monday to Thursday in London and then Friday in constituency, that for the autumn winter period may change, and I may be in London all week and then just in constituency at the weekend. But having said that, I actually live at home and commute up. So, you know, I have the best of both worlds. I can be in Parliament representing the people of Guildford and our villages, but also living at home with my family and, you know, being in constituency.
Zoe Franklin, Guildford's new MP, thank you very much for giving us your time and good luck.
Thank you, Martin.